screeching loud noise when we put in the new batteries, okay? Please.
Yeah, so it's like, I know that,
someone also closed the door, that running back and forth and screaming is distracting.
I was just about to say neurotypicals tend to remain in cliques. So if you help us become self-advocates by also encouraging us to make new friends and connections and be interested in other people besides one tight circle. Did everyone hear me? I'm just...
Yeah, I heard you.
Good. Thank you. All right.
Okay, we got this working again with new batteries.
We're back!
So,
And no
Sonny,
modules.
if I may, I think what I'm hearing you say is that a few things that were really, really important. One was that it's not just a special interest, it's a talent. These things that we're interested in, and it could be opportunities for us to not only find work, but maybe we could be self-employed with the right kind of supports and help, right? That's a big important thing. And the other thing that I thought was really important that you mentioned was, I lost it.
But, because I know that neurotypical people, and especially kids, like to stay in a tight-knit circle or clique of friends. But if you could encourage us, help us to make new friends and reach out to our communities and, help us build those connections and relationships rather than staying in a close, tight circle of friends that we already know. Instead, we would be meeting other people.
So you're saying in addition to, not in replacement of, and that was the other important part. So we'll have Maya
expand on that one quickly.
Okay, so Maya's been waiting. Let me get Maya, and then I'm going to come back and hit the other end of the table.
Okay, so we have a lot of really great points, and I'm going to connect them now with this idea. So, I outgrew the job coach situation years ago, and at the Center for Leadership and Disability, my job coach now is a mentor. And I really think it's very important to have a mentor in your life that's going to pull you to the side if you're going to have a meltdown or if you're going to break down because you don't understand something because you didn't exactly, read the body language or understand why somebody told you no. So maybe a mentor, somebody that can talk to you gently, not somebody harsh that's going to scream no at you, somebody that can tell you in a nice way that isn't condescending or patronizing. A second thing I think we should do with these kids and adults is, what about volunteering? Okay, you have a special interest. Let's say you're interested in bird watching, and in Zoo Atlanta, you wouldn't start out working with the birds or the parakeets exhibits. You would start out doing clerical work, but then you could go off and work there. And another thing, if you want to get involved, what about getting involved in the astronomy club or getting involved with the astronomy club or fighting to get involved with helping at your church or working at the daycare center, depending on at the astronomy, not like work pay, just that. Or let's say you have writing skills and you want to volunteer to write for the local paper, and then and you don't necessarily tell them that you're autistic. You show them your talent, you show them your work.
Really awesome. That's very good words. So it's an important thing that you're bringing up, right? This ability to not just have to participate in groups that are for people with disabilities, but to be able to do anything in society, and your mentor can just help you do that.
Yeah, and you don't sell yourself, you sell your work.
Okay, I just now remembered what it is I wanted to say earlier. Another way that the community support system can help other individuals become self-advocates is inclusion and interaction. Of course, when I say inclusion, I'm saying, get them involved with other kids their age, both neurotypical and individuals on the spectrum. I myself am with a group of like-minded individuals on the spectrum, and we meet once a week during specific seasons of the year. and we talk about stuff. We share interests, etc. You know, well, that's one of the great, another things that I advocate for is peer interaction. It's good for those of us on the spectrum to meet other individuals that share the same thing. I mean, of course, and we also want inclusion as well, because we're going to have to get out in the world and interact with such people. But it's always good to have that kind of circle, as that kind of clique that Sunny was talking about, of those of us on the friends who are on the spectrum. You want to have that kind of circle of friends that'll be a lot easier to talk with than with neurotypicals. But that way you have a good way to keep yourself connected, and that way you always have friends. And the other thing is, I want to address those individuals who do not speak. I understand there are actually a couple of such individuals who don't speak in the audience today. I can't quite see where they are now, but I know. But there are ways for those who do not, on the spectrum, who do not speak to communicate. It's called the Rapid Prompting Method, or RPM for short. There is, for one, the Hirsch Academy where I work does RPM. And so if anybody wants any references to referrals to people who teach RPM, you can ask me. And there's another face that I see in the audience today that can also be a source of reference on that as well. So there are ways. Don't feel defeated at all because your child doesn't speak. There are ways. There's that light at the end of the tunnel, as Aaron was talking about. Now I'll just hand it on to him.
I will, don't worry. Okay, so Sean and Sunny, Sunny, you definitely raised a strong point with the interests. So, and the willingness of neurotypicals to let an individual with autism into their groups. Something that parents and communities can do for the individuals on the spectrum is help them with practicing the conversation skills and expanding interests, so that when trying to let one of those small groups of tight-knit people, letting someone new in, one of the best ways is by having to understand their interest and being able to talk about it in conversations. Letting someone new who shares the interest is always a good way to build upon it.
That's enough for you?
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for being patient and waiting your turn. I think, Bennett, you still have a orange card. Do you want to say something? Are you sure? You have time?
Yeah, plenty of them.
Oh, all right. So let me know if you change your mind. Okay, I'm happily we have plenty of time. There's no rush at all. I would like to actually add something to this little conversation that's going here, because there's one thing that I have that these guys don't. I'm a parent. I'm a parent of a neurotypical child and a child on the spectrum. And where I often get left out on things is they'll have these events for parents only, and I don't get invited to those because I'm on the spectrum. And the parents want to get away from people that are on the spectrum, or they don't feel like they can be honest or say things in front of me. And so then I end up being one of those people that's isolated from all the groups. Then if I go to the groups of people that are on the spectrum, no offense guys, most of them are these guys' age. And I love you guys. You guys are awesome. But sometimes, they don't know what it's like to have a 15-year-old at home and from the parent's perspective. And it would be nice to be able to talk to people. But I think that's what happens when we start dividing off into small groups. Instead of being inclusive, where everybody can be together and everyone can be honest together, right? We end up dividing up, and then a lot of people get left out. So I think we are coming up to that part where we're going to be able to let these guys ask questions if you guys are open for it. But
Yes.
I'm also noticing that everybody's getting a little bit antsy, so I didn't know if maybe you guys want to take a moment to kind of shake and flap and do whatever you got to do. Get yourself some more water. Give our panelists about 5 minutes to breathe.